All right, we'll call her 6:30 and call this meeting to order so we can move on. Can I have a roll call, please?
Present.
Thank you, Pi.
Why you don't want to be there now? Try it.
Tinsley,
Present.
Anderson, Cruz,
Corrected.
Harper,
Here.
Rector, Rosales,
Here.
Harkey.
Here. All right, we have a quorum. Let's move ahead. Can I have a motion on the agenda, please? Moved by Rosales, seconded by Tinsley. Any changes or suggestions? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we have an agenda. We'll move forward then. Can I have a motion on the minutes of February 6th, please? Moved by Harper, seconded by Anderson. Any changes, revisions, questions? All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we'll move forward for public participation. We have no slips turned in. Doesn't look like any public. We'll move then ahead to any communications. Any communications from board members? All right. Seeing none, we'll close that and move forward. First item for action is approval of the contract for the satellite jail domestic hot water delivery. Can I have a motion on that, please? Moved by Mr. Tinsley, seconded by Harper. Dana, would you please explain this for us, please?
Okay. ITB 2018-002, which is the domestic hot water system replacement at the satellite jail. Per our last meeting, we bid out the documents, published them on Wednesday following last month's meeting. Had a pre-conference meeting on the 19th, and bids were opened last Monday. At the pre-conference meeting, we had 5 bidders. 4 actually ended up bidding on the project. Felt pretty good about the bids. I need to update you on one thing that I forgot about. Apologize. When we talked at the last meeting, we were estimating the project cost somewhere in the magnitude of $300,000. After the meeting, I got to talking with the GHR, and we took out a portion of the project which would have replaced the 2 large holding tanks of hot water at the satellite. We got in and took a look at them and felt like even though they were put in 96, they're really just a holding tank, and they're still in good condition, and didn't see a reason really to dismantle those and put new ones in. That was a savings of $80,000. So the true cost that we estimated was going to be $220,000. You can see from the bid tabulation form, high price came in at $179,700. Low price $139,900. There's good competition. Just a couple $100 separated the low bidder from the next bidder. Our engineer, GHR, contacted Reliable Plumbing and Heating to verify the bid and to go over any questions they might had. They had none. They felt very confident being able to deliver the project at that price. So also attached in your packet of the agenda is a letter of recommendation from GHR. So we are recommending moving forward with Reliable. They're a good contractor. They're local. They've done a number of projects, been low bidders for us here at the county on several of our projects in the last couple of years. They do great work. We're looking forward to do this project. So, any questions?
Anybody questions? Please, let's make sure that the motion reflects that we are suggesting Reliable for the contract. With no further questions, I'll ask for the yeas and nays. All in favor of this contract, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that approves. What was the total bid amount, Dana?
$139,900.
139.9, and that goes to the county board
That goes to the county board.
on the consent agenda. If anybody has any future questions, they can always pull it off. Okay, that being our only major action item, let's move ahead to the facilities director's report. Dana, your show.
Okay. I'd like to introduce John Hall from Planning and Zoning. John has taken the lead with regard to the nursing home plot revision plan. We hired MSA Engineering, come out and do some work for us. John has been working with them, the city, so we thought it'd be an opportunity to bring you up to date and also give you an update on latest development. A number of you have probably heard about it, but it's going to require a sidewalk be put in order for this to be finalized with the city, this plot revision, in order for sale to move forward. So, John, you want to kind of give us a snapshot?
Sure. This is a really complicated process, so I'm going to start back in the beginning. In August 2017, County Administrator Rick Snyder asked me to help Dana with this, and Dana hired Dave Ashley with MSA to do the plat. Jacob Krogert with the State's Attorney's Office was asked to provide legal assistance, and in fact, the State's Attorney's Office also hired a local land use attorney, Mary Ann Royce, to assist with some of the legal issues. The Urbana Subdivision Land Development Code, just like your own subdivision regulations, requires any subdivided lot must front a public street with sidewalks. You probably know Art Bartel is not a public street, so the nursing home doesn't front a public street. The total length of Art Bartel is 2,300 feet. So upgrading Art Bartel to meet the Urbana street requirements would be really a very significant expense. So we went into the subdivision expecting to request waivers from that requirement. The requirement to build the street, the requirement to dedicate the land as right-of-way, and the requirement for sidewalks. Now, in addition to needing to create a new lot, we needed to change the zoning because the nursing home is actually in a district that doesn't allow nursing homes, a zoning district. The reason it was able to be put in that zoning district is the Urbana zoning ordinance has a unique provision that allows a government body to build essentially anything anywhere with a special use permit. And in fact, the nursing home has a special use permit like that, but that special use permit cannot be transferred to a private owner. It's only good if there's a government owner. So we knew that there was going to have to be a change in the zoning district and then probably some kind of additional zoning approval. So we looked at the campus in whole, and if you imagine a line midway through the juvenile detention center, everything south of that line is zoned CRE, Conservation, Recreation, Education, and everything above it is in one of two zoning districts, R4, medium density, multifamily, and then the area of the old nursing home is in R6, which is a higher density residential, multifamily residential zoning district. Now, since the county board was going to continue to maintain Art Bartel Road, we wanted to minimize the chance for traffic over Art Bartel Road that was not related to a nursing home. So we requested rezoning to the R4 district, which is consistent with the current zoning east of Art Bartel Road. In fact, the juvenile detention center is split zone between R4 and CRE. Again, the zoning is largely irrelevant because it also has one of those unique special use permits. So Jacob Krogert with the State's Attorney's Office, myself and Dave Ashley with MSA met with City of Urbana staff in what is called a pre-application conference on September 13th. We reviewed the necessary waivers and approvals. Urbana staff cautioned us that because of these waivers related to Art Bartel Road, we were what they called sailing into uncharted waters. They really did not know how the council would react to that. They thought they could recommend approval, so they were supportive to that extent. Working with Jacob Krogert of the State's Attorney's Office, my staff helped me prepare these 4 applications. We submitted those to the city on January 19th, following that county board vote on January 9. Subsequently, on February 21, the City of Urbana Zoning Board of Appeals unanimously approved the conditional use permit for the nursing home. A conditional use permit is a sort of simpler version of a special use permit. It only had to be approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals. And again, they recommended that, or they approved it unanimously. Then on February 22nd, the City of Urbana Plan Commission considered the proposed zoning map amendment and the waiver of subdivision requirements. The Plan Commission was going to make a recommendation to the City Council. And at that meeting, the Plan Commission did recommend approval of the zoning map amendment on a vote of 4 yes to 2 no. 3 of the Plan Commission members were absent. They did not approve the county's request for full waivers, but they did recommend approval of the requirement to make it a public street and for dedication of the right-of-way. So they did not recommend that had to be done. They deferred construction of a sidewalk on one side of Art Bartel Road until any further subdivision would be requested. As far as I know, the county isn't really anticipating any further subdivision. And they voted to recommend immediate construction of a sidewalk on one side of Art Bartel Road. Now, again, that's 2,300 feet in length. So following that meeting, I asked Jeff Blue for an estimate of how much that would cost. $210,000 was Jeff's estimate. That's a very preliminary estimate. On the north part of Art Bartel, there's a lot of drainage work that's going to have to be done. That's going to complicate the construction of that sidewalk. In fact, it's going to make it very difficult. I had urged Urbana staff and the Plan Commission to not require construction along the north side of Art Bartel Road. They were not sympathetic with those concerns, and they felt strongly that a sidewalk was needed. So following that meeting of the Plan Commission, I suggested to Chair Weibel that the Urbana Park District might be interested in a joint project to build sidewalks. I was thinking perhaps a sidewalk that would serve Weaver Park more directly might be easier to build, but trying to reduce the cost impact on the county. So Chair Weibel encouraged me to contact the Park District, and in fact, the Park District is very interested in seeing if there's any kind of a joint project that can happen. Those discussions have not started, but the director of the Park District has contacted Dana Brenner, and they're looking forward to seeing if there's some common projects there. Jacob Krogert, Dana Brenner had also suggested that we should try to get a 2-year time frame in which to build that sidewalk. Normally for a private development, if the sidewalk would not be built by the time of the plat recording, there would be a bond put up to guarantee construction of the sidewalk. Urbana staff suggested perhaps City Council would accept a commitment from the county to guarantee that sidewalk would be constructed. So Jacob Krogert has already drafted a draft commitment, and in the hopes that we can get Urbana staff to incorporate that as part of the final approval. Well, anyhow, the City Council considered the zoning map amendment and the waiver of subdivision regulations at their February 28th study session. Now, there are 7 members on the City Council. They were all present that night. I did not know this. The Urbana mayor only votes when there is a tie amongst City Council members. Approval of the zoning map amendment, and again, this was just a study session. The approval of the zoning map amendment would require only 4 affirmative votes, but approval of the waiver of subdivision requirements requires 5 affirmative votes. Because of some of the tough questions that had been asked at the Plan Commission meeting, we asked Chair Weibel if he could be there to answer questions. He was. At that study session, 2 of the City Council members made it very clear they were absolutely opposed to the zoning map amendment. They did not want to facilitate the sale of the nursing home. They were opposed to the sale of the nursing home. Two other of the city council members who were there were on the fence. So they had a pretty intense discussion for a short time. It was a very long meeting. In fact, this county board requests were not even considered until 10:30 that night. And so by 11 o'clock, they decided they needed to continue these to another study session, which was going to be on March 12. Following that study session, Chair Weibel and the county administrator discussed it, decided they thought it would be best to actually request a continuance on those two issues until after the county board votes on May 1 regarding the sale. Reasoning that if the county board has 15 votes to support sale of the nursing home, that might help secure the necessary votes from the Urbana City Council. And if there aren't 15 votes for sale of the nursing home, there's really no need to try to get the approvals from the City Council, not necessarily a need. And given the difficulty of the vote, probably might be best not to continue that at this time. So that's the status. The best the county board can hope for is this requirement to build sidewalk on one side, perhaps over a period of 2 years, perhaps with a joint project with the Urbana Park District. And so that's all I can tell you at this time.
John, a question for you. I didn't ask you this before. Did they give you any reasoning or justification why they felt the sidewalk should be on the north side of the east-west portion of Art Bartel versus the south side?
No, I think they're open to it being on the south side, but they wanted continuously along Art Bartel Road, only on one side. But
All right, anybody have any other questions? John, thank you for the update. This is not your usual committee. We appreciate you showing up.
Thanks, John.
thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to a review of county lease information.
Okay, on the desk when you came in, I left you a packet of information. So behind the nursing home document, it's titled 7C County Lease Information. Based on some of the questions I received at the last Facilities Committee meeting, I thought it might be helpful to have one document that shows all of the county leases, their dates of enactment, when they end, who it is, the contractual amount, the square footage numbers, and obviously the important information, whether it's a cost per square foot or it's a negotiated per contract. So I've created a document that is before you that lists all of our leasees. So 3 pages, so you can see that in 2017 we collected $627,727 and some change. We're anticipating a slight increase to $639,309. That just as a reminder, because we took a pretty good hit at Elias. If you'll remember that Elias used to rent the entire facility, but since we've closed a majority of it down and they can no longer use it, they're no longer paying rent for space they can't use. So we're slowly getting back up to where we were. I know you're just pulling it out and looking at it, but any questions about leases? Keep in mind the premise has been, since I've been doing this for 4 years, is that we've been trying to get our values of square footage cost up to be more in line with where the averages are within Champaign-Urbana. And we're slowly getting there, but it would be unfair of us to take somebody who is paying $4 or $5 a square foot for various reasons and all of a sudden double that in 1 year. Folks just can't afford that. So we're trying to do it in a reasonable manner and negotiate that up as we turn over leases for new ones. So RPC took a pretty good little turn upward this past year in renegotiating theirs. We're getting closer. So
Yeah, thank you, Dana. You've done a good job of that. Questions?
Humane Society is pretty flat for the next 15 years.
Yes, it is.
They up to
We only lease the and pardon me for interrupting. We only lease the property to them. They own the facility, the structure, and they've made all the improvements to it. So we're just very similar to our deal with federal government for the whatever's out there on the North 80, which, you know what? I bet I left that off. I did. Caught myself. Nope, there it is. Department of Army Corps of Engineers. Yep, 5.94 acres of property. That's the facility just east of Medcad at 1905. That's the,
An armory or something.
Yeah. So we just lease the property, and they own the building. Now, should the lease ever go back, obviously the facility reverts to us unless they're going to try and pick it up and move it, which neither one will happen. So.
And then you didn't include the lease for Rosecrans?
Don't have a lease for Rosecrans yet.
Well, okay. And that'll only be for 6 months if there is a lease.
We'll look at that next month.
You have before you what I have in contracts.
Trying to bring in that money. Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Geraldo. Any other questions? Okay, Dana, thank you for the update. This is a handy document.
Yep. Okay, next up is Elias. It's a little 2-page picture. Okay, so what are you looking at right here? Well, you're looking at, this is in the basement of Elias. If you're interested, it's the southwest wall facing the old annex. And it's where power comes in, below ground. And when we had that almost 5 inches of rain, 2 days afterward, and this picture you're seeing is actually a video. It is still dripping out at an unbelievable rate. But we had about 8 or 9 inches of standing water in the basement, and water was pouring out of these conduits with this thick 1-inch electric cable. So deep, so much, I forbid anybody going down there and trying to take a picture or pulling off the cabinet just to take a look at it because it's dangerous. Fortunately, our sump pumps were in good shape and withheld. There's 2 of them in the basement there, and within 2 days, basically, we just had puddles everywhere, and it was still leaking. But and 4 days later, just the second picture shows you 4 days later, it's just a little trickle still coming out. What does it mean? Well, fortunately, at Elias, different than at Medcad, this power where it comes in, it just comes in the building at this point and goes to another area. At Medcad, it physically came into the back of an electric panel with circuitry, and that is the major difference. What does it mean for the future? We definitely need to take care of the leak. However, I'm going to postpone that until such time as we finish the study we started at Elias in looking at trying to be able to turn off the utilities in the old portion of the building at Elias. We're about 80% done with our study. We've got a couple more meetings to schedule and pull together the final documents and information. If we are successful in being able to do that in the next, hopefully, year or even this year, if that's possible, the fix for this particular problem is a lot less expensive and easier to do. It'll be just dig down right next to the wall where these come in, cut the wire, terminate the conduit, plug the conduit, and any other things that we see where there might be holes into the basement wall, and fill it back up. If we have to keep the power on, there is a steam tunnel that we did not remove because of cost. When we removed the 5,500 square foot of the annex, we pulled the roof off. We left these conduits with this electric wire, and there's 400 amp service coming through there, so it's not small service. And there's 2 sets of them, so you got 800 amps coming through there. So we've created a trough, and so basically the water is being caught in this cement basin or bathtub, if you will, and it goes right to the building. And I'm pretty sure that, when we tore apart the annex, we'll probably knock a hole in some conduit someplace, and when it's in a bathtub and you get a hole in the conduit, it's filling up fast, and it just absolutely pours in until it's empty. So I think that's the fix we're going to pursue. We're going to see where this study takes us and what we're able to do before we do anything and decide on what type of fix best serves the county and in our budget. Any questions?
Did we suffer much damage at the Medicaid Building with all the rain that we received in February? Because I know that it was leaking last time I walked in through there.
At the Medicaid Building?
Yeah.
We still have some small leaks in the building, but again, that building is old, and it was penetrated in a lot of ways over the years. It's further complicated because it was a fallout shelter, and what they did, they created basically two walls. You have a basement wall, and then 5 feet outside of the basement wall, you have another concrete wall that was been filled with sand. Okay, so you can't easily get into, and then there's walkway or sidewalk up above, so you really can't get into the basement wall on the exterior to do a lot of fixes. So we're trying to do these stopping water penetration from the inside, which is damn difficult to do.
They don't do those silicone injections along the wall that they used to do?
Well, you can't get there because you got to pull the sidewalk up.
Oh, the sidewalk.
And then you got all that sand to deal with, so it's...
And then my last question is, how did the correctional center walls that we put in at the bottom hold out? Because there was some new stuff that we did at the bottom.
All three of the precast concrete buildings held up very good. Now, some roofs didn't hold up very good. I will tell you. In that big rain, we had a massive amount of water filtering through the roof at the sheriff's office, downtown jail. Had spots in this building on roofs that haven't been done. Had spots over at JDC. Fortunately, the satellite jail, I don't think we had a leak anywhere, which is positive and a first. So,
keep fingers crossed.
But yeah, we had with all the rain, as you can imagine, we get up there and make sure that the drains up on the roofs are clean and unobstructed, and we still had probably 8 inches of water on the roof at downtown sheriff's office because it pools and it just doesn't handle that amount of rain very well.
In the courthouse, the leaky windows that we used to have,
we still have one window that's been problematic. They need to get a lift back to get back up and put a little more silicone caulk at the top of the window. But other than that, no, we've not had a report of any since we did the window project there and the recaulking.
And our tuck pointing on the tower is okay these
days?
Yep.
Tower's in great shape.
Okay, good.
No water in the clock.
That's all the questions I had.
It's a fair time to ask those questions. Thank you, Mr. Rosales. Anyone else? All right, thank you for the update, Dana. Let's move on to the capital fund expenditure from 2017.
Capital fund, that's at document E. Yellow, blue, blue and green. Thought it best to give you just an update on where we ended the fiscal year of 2017. So we had 12 projects. As you look through the document on the first 2 pages, the ones that are in the, I'll call it light orange, are the projects that have continued. That's on page 2. I'll apologize there, Jack. On page 2, the light orange, those 2 projects have continued into this fiscal year. That's the satellite parking lot. We did the ADA portion and have paid for that at the satellite jail, and what's left is the asphalt parking lot, which we bid out last fall We'll be taking off the top 2 inches of all of the asphalt there and pouring 2 new inches on top. So we'll get a brand new surface out there. It'll look great. It'll hold up for another 30 years, and it'll be in a lot better shape than what we got right now. So the other one is we talked about briefly is finishing the utility isolation study at Elias. So you can see from the dollar amount what we spent, what was left, $151,000. Out of that continuation, we've got about $81,000 left that will be spent both at the satellite jail and Elias. Elias is a very small amount of that. It's $1,500 basically, roughly. So we've got about $70,000 to apply to this year's $532,000 and change for capital fund. So combined for FY 2018, we've got $602,445,000 for capital projects for this year. Felt good about the numbers. I think as you look through it, if you got any questions, certainly I'll try and answer those. But I think we did a pretty good job of estimating with our various engineers, architects, and we're fortunate. We're in a pretty good bidding climate. Again, following with our bids that came in last Thursday, extremely competitive. People want to work, and the one thing that we do is make sure that we contact people to make sure that they're aware that we have projects and work out there and get them involved with the bidding process. So, any questions?
Yes, I have one. I do recall that the ADA projects that we had an extension up to March, and we're entering March. Have we completed that, or we're still on hold? And were we going to make that initial investment, or is that for the next meeting that we're going to have next month?
Well, we have told the DOJ, and we talked about it at the last meeting. I think maybe in the minutes, what you missed was that we got permission from DOJ to postpone any decision regarding the sheriff's office until July, and then June or July, and that we would be dealing with it at that time, make a decision. So everything else that the county or physical plant has done to be in compliance with DOJ findings has been done, with the exception of the sheriff's office. I will mention that RPC, through Head Start, has 4 facilities that they utilize that DOJ looked at. They've managed to take care of most of the items on the list, but we still have some outstanding items to work through at both Rantoul and Savoy. Pretty minimal at Savoy, just regarding some parking, and we'll have to black in some yellow lines and restripe their parking lot. So minimal cost there. Put up a van accessible ADA sign. Again, minimal costs. The costs for them will be up at Rantoul in providing proper slope and cross slope from the parking lot to the front of their building for wheelchair-bound students, staff, family members. That could be $15,000 to $20,000. They have said they worked with the village. There's been a changeover in administration, as we all know. I will tell you that I've talked to Rick, and he's going to try and help them to get this done. They were initially supposed to get the work done and agreed to it by October of 17. That didn't happen for whatever reason. So we're stepping in to make sure that this work gets done, and they're aware of that in terms of RPC. So, but we will get it done. I can't get it done this month, but hope to have it done sometime next month when asphalt and concrete work can really start to happen. So, does that answer your questions?
Mm-hmm. And drainage work well in In the east side of our property here by the nursing home, there's a retention pond basin there. So did that get filled and cause any damages? The general section, I remember it used to get flooded when it would rain, and it rained hard.
As always with the nursing home, there's a lot of standing water because it's in a hole.
Right.
More than one. And the drainage swale that you're talking about that goes to a small pond over on the Park District side handled most of the water. I didn't see a backup, as the rain was coming down on that Tuesday. As we drove around properties, I mean, there's standing water everywhere because it just, ground can't handle it. But it did move, and within, the next day where you saw it standing, it wasn't any longer, and I felt like it rained pretty good. Had we gotten another 2 or 3 inches, we would have been in trouble. But so would anybody with a basement in Champaign, Urbana. So,
I do have one question. As we begin to build, especially this sidewalk on the south side of our Bartel Road, are we going to be charged? John already left. Are we going to be charged any drainage tax since we're putting concrete, or is that going to be no charge because it's going to drain into the ditch that's going to go to the deeper side of the lot or something to that effect? Because as we put,
well, it's a fair question. I don't know. I would say that the tax might come when you at the point in time when you have to put in a rain runoff drainage, proper drainage, with gutters and underground water. I would hope that we've got enough property. If you look at your photo again from the nursing home and look on the left side, you can see the sheriff's satellite jail, and out front of their building, which parallels Learman, there's 2 large retention basins on either side of the main road that feeds to the center. It's an east-west road that feeds to the center of the satellite jail. There's 2 large basins there, certainly enough to handle any rain runoff or drainage from Art Bartel or any sidewalk that we might put in. So that's one of the reasons that John mentioned that I'm a huge proponent of getting a true engineering study done, and not just of where we are right now, but the goal here. And attached to that document, you'll see is a price from MSA to do the work. But let's say in 15 years or 20 years, Art Bartel needs to be finalized, meaning curb, gutters, sidewalks on both sides, a full street in order to be a Urbana city street. What does that mean for the sidewalks? Where are they going to be positioned? Because if we spend, as Jeff Blue calculated, maybe $200,000 on sidewalks, and we might be able to partner with the Park District, but when you spend that amount of money, you certainly don't want to have to tear something up in 10 or 15 years to redo it, which doesn't make any sense. So I'm a proponent of, let's figure out what it's going to be, and let's put that sidewalk, if it's going along Art Bartel, in the right location at the right elevation, so that whatever you do down the road is not going to impact it.
Didn't we do a study not too long ago with Burns and Clancy regarding our drainage situation and this footprint?
I believe that was done prior to my arrival there, and we have it on file certainly, but that was regarding drainage. There was a study done, and there was some work done, I believe. I remember reading something that Patsy put together. She wanted a rain garden.
She did. Less concrete. Okay, yeah, I was just wondering if that engineering study was still
yes, that information
viable
is still viable and valid and out
now.
there, and we'll, as we look at this, we'll have to look at some of that information, and it'll be helpful. But we need to come in and shoot the elevations and find out what we've got and kind of determine where we need to be or what we want for the future.
All right. Ms. Petrie?
To follow up on what Mr. Rosales was asking about, there was work done, drainage work was done along that road, and so my information question as you move forward is, the argument given to us when that was voted upon, shall I say, was that it was going to solve the drainage issues within that area of the county campus. The way you're speaking now, that may not necessarily be the case.
I'm going to
If I
plead ignorance and let
yeah,
somebody
I
give
think
us their-
having grown up on a farm, I know the idea of solving drainage issues for all eternity is never ever a reality. So anybody that bought a drainage problem would be solved forever is probably buying something they shouldn't.
Patsy, I just thumbed through that document, so I'd have to research it, and I'd be happy to talk to you more in depth if I pull that file out and look at it.
That was part of the argument of when they laid all the pipes along Art Bartel.
What exactly did they do after that study was done, or did they do anything?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Tore it up, laid the pipes.
What?
Supposed to go into the retention pond.
Right. And it's been less than 10 years. I would imagine it's been like 5 or 6.
Yeah, so you might want to.
Yeah, I just don't know where there's a collection point taking it. If you're talking about the collection sites out front or west of the satellite jail, I've walked Art Bartel. I don't see any collection points along Art Bartel other than that if it's just gravity and it's going into the swales, and the swales are taking it. Now that I believe, but I don't know that, and I'm not seeing any documents that show that there's a pipe buried along Art Bartel that's taking water anywhere. In fact, I know that for a fact. So.
Well, maybe we can converse further about it.
We'll pull that Burns Classy study out and.
So you get 5-6 inches of rain on this flat dirt. I don't care how much pipe you got buried, you can't get rid of water.
Yeah.
You have to have service drainage.
Okay, back to the point at hand, which is, of course, the capital fund expenses report, as we were discussing, but a good discussion no matter what. Any other questions? All right, let's move ahead to the fire alarm panel at the downtown jail.
Okay, last item under my report, and this came up early last week. Was it part of the rain? Did it get wet? I don't think so. But the downtown jail, we had a failure on the fire alarm panel. It's the main fire alarm panel. Our CPU for the panel itself has failed. It is no longer functional. This panel is out of date. What does that mean? Well, they stopped being serviced 3 years ago because they don't make parts for them. So we're looking at several things. We've got pricing, as you can see on page 3. This is an Edwards panel. Why is that important? Well, we've got all Edwards equipment attached to this fire panel. And when you're talking about fire suppression, it's proprietary, meaning it'll only work with an Edwards panel. And if you bring in another company who doesn't carry Edwards, any price that you get, they'll have to replace all of the components. So Thompson Electronics out of Peoria can replace the panel for $5,500 and $5,550. They do have a CPU that they will attempt to change out, but they think the whole panel is gone, which we would concur. But they'll at least check it, which would be a nice savings for us. We've got 2 other prices just so that we comply, even though this is really an emergency purchase. But the other pricing is well over $20,000 because they have to replace all the components within the building, not just the fire alarm panel and the CPU. So we'll know more as we go forward, but this was an emergency as it came up. I wanted to update you. What does it mean for the sheriff and the correction officers and inmates downstairs? It means that everybody in the building is on fire alert. What does that mean? It means they're all looking for fires and have to be ready at any moment because the fire alarm does not work in the building. So we need to get this taken care of quickly, which we intend to do. Hence, we were able to go out and get prices very quickly, and because we need this panel in place. So we need our sensors to be able to work because our officers can't be everywhere within the building to sense a fire. So any questions? Yes, sir.
Do these connect with your typical pull-down fire alarms? Okay.
Yeah, these connect with the pull-down fire alarms. These connect with the smoke and heat sensors around the building.
I imagine that includes your carbon monoxide sensors as well, correct?
You know, I'm going to say no to that on this particular panel. This is really strictly fire alarm panel. I know that they've put in secondary carbon monoxides at some of the buildings in jails, but there's no carbon monoxide. This is such an old equipment and old, they weren't thinking about carbon monoxide back in 79 and 80 when this boat was built.
Thank you, Mr. Tinsley. Anyone else with questions about this? All right. Thank you, Dana. That'll end the facilities director's report. We will move on to the chair's report. I really don't have much other than to mention everybody that next meeting will be Tuesday, April 3rd. Under other business, we have the approval of our closed minutes, which several people did get to look at. Stan, I think you're the only one who hasn't been able to that's here, and James. For now, I would entertain a motion on the closed minutes to keep them closed and approve them. Moved by Mr. Rosales. Yes, I'm sorry. A motion to approve the minutes of the closed meeting of February 6th. Thank you, Mr. Rosales. And a second. Seconded by Mr. Harper. Any discussion or changes? All those in favor, please say aye. All right. And I did have a letter from the state's attorney on the next item, the semi-annual review of closed session minutes. None of them are ripe for opening, so I would entertain a motion to keep them closed, correct? A motion to please keep them closed. Mr. Harper, a second? Seconded by Mr. Rosales. All those in favor of keeping them closed, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Those will remain closed. Designation of items on the consent agenda, that would be 7A. And without anything else, we'll be adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.